Hello there. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and tonight I have a super simple scrapbook layout idea for you with some harder to scrap photos and some ideas on how to help that situation. We're going to be using the Snowy Scenes Designer Series paper pack and sticker sheet, some faceted trio gems, and some coordinating cardstock. Now, the Snowy Scenes Designer Series paper is fun and bright, and I've used this in a layout just recently, a super cute layout, and I'll link that in the description, but it has a busy side of all different kinds of winter themed patterns and then a more muted side. This designer series paper coordinates with a die that actually cuts out different pieces of the pattern paper. Now, we're not going to be using that die today because we're focusing on simple. We're going to be doing some simply scrapping without any added equipment, dies, or stamps. Now, I have some photos here from 1969. As you can tell, they're yellowed a little bit. Their quality isn't super great, but they are of my brother Jim, who recently passed away in June. My brother Jim and I are just a year apart, and these are some snow day pictures of us in 1969 in an older home that was one of the early homes that my parents had. And they're very important to me, but they're very difficult to scrap. It's so much more fun to scrap those bold and bright and playful photos that we get these days, even with our cell phone. But some of these older photos we really want to get in the album, and we really want to make meaningful pages with them because we're the last of those that can tell those stories. So I really wanted to do a very simple layout with these and get these in the pages, but they're a little bit of a problem because they're not bright, they're not bold, they're a little dingy, they're out of focus, but I want them in there. They're important to me, and it's important to tell the story, especially after losing my brother Jim in June. So I'm shopping my stash of papers, and I really feel like something that's going to help with these photos, because these photos are pretty drab, they're not very bright, is to add the bright backgrounds to them. So I'm sorting through the papers to try to see what I might be able to coordinate, and I envision a little bit of a frame, not a traditional even frame, but a frame that's going to bring out those photos by or help those photos be more festive and happy with a happy, bright background. So I have a 9x10 white willow piece, and then I'm going to gut out the busy house pattern. Now, this busy house pattern is one of my favorites, but I don't want to gut it in a traditional square. I'm going to gut it in a traditional square, but the 9x10 is an off size. So we're going to have a little bit higher of a margin on the top and a little bit narrow of a margin on the bottom. Now, I do want to add some poppy cardstock to the back. Poppy is part of the coordinating cardstock, so I have gutted a 9 1/8 by 10 1/8 frame so that I don't waste that interior poppy piece, because the coordinating cardstock just has 2 pieces of poppy, and I want to stretch that because I'll be using this pattern paper and the coordinating cardstock in many more layouts. So I'm just going to put that 1/8 inch frame. Now, I was asked before, how do you get those 1/8 inch frames so straight? I always line up my frames in the corner and make sure that the corner, like the upper left corner, is even, and I let the rest fall into place. And that is really helpful in lining up very small edges. So now I envision, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this, but vertical, all the vertical photos, the 3.5 by 3.5 vertical photos on the left, and then 3.5 by 3.5 vertical photos on the right. Now, they are an original Polaroid or an original photo. So that is part of the photo, and that white is a little bit yellowed. And so I'm not quite sure if I'll put a mat on that or what I'll do. I don't really want to cut the original Polaroid and put a nice bright white frame under it because it's an original. I really want to leave the Polaroids the way they are, or the photos the way they are. I keep calling them Polaroids. I don't even think they're Polaroids. I think they are like from an Instamatic camera. So I've cut some 3x5 pattern paper pieces and cardstock pieces, and my vision is to keep it so simple. I'm thinking about dovetailed banners on the left and dovetailed banners on the right, and then doing my journaling on one of those dovetailed banners, and then maybe doing a little decorating. So now I'm thinking I definitely want to do something to make those hard to scrap photos pop. So I think I'll probably be adding some poppy behind that. So I'm really glad that I gutted those poppy frames. So I'm going to dovetail the journaling. So I just typed my journaling in Word, and then I printed it on cardstock, and then I cut it out to, this one is actually 2 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then I'm going to dovetail it. So my background piece is 3x5, so the interior piece is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now I'm going to just fold that pattern paper that won't get a crease, because I'm folding on the grain of the paper, folding that in half and snipping the corner off to make quick and easy dovetails. And then the cardstock pieces, of course, I make those dovetails by cutting up about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch if you want it a little bit deeper, and then just snipping from end to end to make a nice dovetailed banner. And so some people call those notches, some people call those dovetailed banners. We're just going to make that little dovetailed piece. Now, I definitely decide to add an 1/8 inch poppy. So the photo itself with the white edge that is from the original photo is 3.5 by 3.5. So I go just an 1/8 inch larger for those poppy photo mats. And I really think that helps those more dingy, dull photos to stand out. Now, my brother and I spent lots of time outdoors. And if you were raised in the era that my brother and I were raised in, kids played outside. Even if you didn't want to play outside, you played outside. My parents were always like, go outside and play. That is what we did. And so we had, living in South Dakota, many, many, many snow days. So we had sleds. And what I love about these photos is my big brother pulling me around on the sled. And then there's a couple of photos where I'm trying to pull him and I'm not quite strong enough. So in 1969, I would have been just 3. My brother would have been 4 in those photos. And so we were very, very close in age. And all of our early photos, which are very few, are together, typically one apart, one together, that kind of thing. And we played outside and we built forts and we climbed on top of barns and we pulled each other in the sleds. And we used all kinds of random things for sleds. We slid on car hoods. We got car hoods from junkyards and we would slide down hills on those. We would slide down in boxes. We slid down the hill in lots of crazy things. So I look at these pictures and I think, oh my gosh, we look just like, you know, ragged, poor kids, but we didn't know the difference. We loved it. So now I'm just sort of sorting out which patterns I might want to be coming out from the center of those 3.5 inch photos. I'm going to grab a sticker off the sticker sheet and do a little decorating off of the stripe and just snip that on that same angle, and I see pulling off a few stickers and fussy cutting a few items out of the pattern paper to give me some more bits. Now this sticker sheet that goes with this particular designer series paper has super large stickers on it, so not a lot of smaller elements, but I have a lot of elements that I can either use the die to cut out with the coordinating die if you wanted to have the die or purchase the die, or I simply can fussy cut them. They're very easy icons to fussy cut out. So I'm picking a couple little snow globes, one vertical and one round that I think have cute scenes in them. I'll probably fussy cut out maybe a couple of the trees right out of the pattern paper, but there's also some really neat tree stickers as well. So I'm going to use my scissors and move my paper around and allow the movement of the paper to help the scissors do the work, and it really makes fussy cutting no problem. But again, if you don't like fussy cutting, I will link in the description the coordinating die that will cut out almost all of the different background pieces from the pattern paper, which is just a really neat exclusive thing that Stampin' Up! Does that I've grown to love, that I think is so neat. So you have the options to get the stamp and die and do stamping and die cutting and coordinate your colors and make your colors coordinate with your photos by coloring with markers or other means of coloring, or you can bypass the coloring step and go directly to cutting these pieces right out of the pattern paper, and they're bright, they're bold, they're fun. Now I fuss around here because I really need a place for some of these smaller icons to land. And so I originally think that I want like maybe a red banner, and maybe I'll build on top of that red banner and build a little cluster up there. And I'm not quite getting it. I'm not liking it. I'm not loving it. I don't really, it feels clunky to me. And I also like the idea of a nice clean page. This is part of a simple scrapbooking workshop where everything is supposed to be simple, easy, quick, and pattern oriented. And so I just don't want a lot of clunky. I want some really cute, simple, easy clusters, but I'm not quite getting it to work out. So I keep sliding it over and sliding it back and trying it in different ways. And then I decide that I'm probably going to cut out this scene outside of the snow globe. I love the house. I love the little snowy scene there. And it reminds me of these photos with my brother Jim, just simpler times playing out in front of our house, which is what we did just about every single day of the summer and winter. I also love that our dog is in the photo with us, and that was a special dog to us back in those days. And I just love the simplicity of the photos, and that's the way it was. We were just simple little kids living in a simple little town with a simple little house and played simple little things. And I want to honor my brother Jim in a whole album. So I've been going back through all of our old photos since I did go through a lot of the photos after he passed away in June, and then of course when we got ready for his celebration of life. But I'm still sorting through a lot of them. He was not married. He did not have any children, so I even feel more of a sense of responsibility to document more of his story, not just our story together, but to document more of his story for future generations. He was super close to my children, and he loved my children as if they were his own, because he didn't have any of his own, and so he's a super special uncle to them. So I hope that they'll treasure this album that I'm working on for him. So I've made a couple little clusters now on those banners on the left. I added about a 1¼ inch banner in the poppy, and then I see myself just adding a few of these snowflake stickers around, adding a couple of the smaller snowflake stickers, so there's a little bit of sticker element or a little bit of fussy cut element on each of those banners that decorates those up a little bit, adding a couple little paper strips like 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch up at the top for a little bit more added interest and to break up that pattern a little bit up above the photo. There's not a lot of elements for me to be able to add with this set, so I'm just kind of adding some paper elements and then maybe another snowflake sticker up at the top there. And then I love how that little scene on the lower left of the right page came out, just keeping it so basic and so simple. Now I'm going to add some of those gorgeous faceted gems. They're larger, but there's 2 tones of blue and then a silvery tone. And like I said, they're faceted, so they glisten a little bit, but they're also simple. And I love adding that little added touch to that, and I'm getting happier. So this was tough. This was tough for a couple reasons. They're not the best quality photos. They're very dingy. They're very dull, but they're very, very important to me. It was also tough because it's a little bit harder of a memory, but I wanted to keep it very simple, and it falls right in line with my simple scrapping and for my simple scrappers. They love very pattern-oriented layouts that are very quick and very easy to put together, but they still, no matter how simple they are, can carry so much meaning. And it makes me so happy to have this memory scrapped of my brother Jim playing in the snow in a simpler time. I miss him. I miss him every day, and I'm so happy to honor him with this album. I hope you've enjoyed this super simple, easy to case layout, and that it's given you a few ideas on how to brighten up hard to scrap photos. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe, shoot me a comment, and share. See you soon, right here on Snips by Kelly.